Good day, everybody, and welcome to the webinar this afternoon. My name is Steve Rogers. I'm the CEO of Right People, Right Job, and a registered service provider and ambassador of WWASA. Thank you for joining us, particularly our senior leaders and decision makers from across Africa. Before we begin, a quick reminder, we ask you to use the chat functionality to raise questions and to make comments. We will respond to all your questions individually at the end. I'd like to introduce Alan Fritz, who is the chairperson of the WWASA board. He is a seasoned executive with a strong track record in strategic leadership, operations, and organizational development. With decades of experience across both public and private sectors, Alan has led high-impact initiatives that drive performance, innovation, and sustainable growth. He is known for his ability to align people, processes, and technology to deliver measurable results. Alan has held senior roles in business transformation, workforce strategy, and stakeholder engagement, often serving as a bridge between executive leadership and operational teams. His career reflects a commitment to excellence, collaboration, and continuous improvement. Alan brings a deep understanding of governance, compliance, and change management, and is passionate about the building of resilient organizations that thrive in complex environments. Outside of work, Alan is also the president of SA Swimming and an advocate for mentorship and community development, often contributing his time to initiatives that support emerging leaders and inclusive growth. Alan, over to you.
Thanks, Steve. If I could just take control.
Please do.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Good to see so many of you in the webinar. I would just, from my side, also say welcome, and I hope that you enjoy what we're presenting today. Thank you once again, Steve, and as I said, good afternoon to my colleagues, good afternoon, participants. Let me start with a very simple observation. We know that geopolitical landscape is causing a lot of concerns for many employers and communities at large across the globe, and this certainly puts a lot of employers under tremendous pressure. Despite uncertainty, we need to improve productivity, retain the talent in our organizations, and manage rising costs from an employee or a business point of view. Why is wellness even on the agenda, you might ask? And I want to go one step further and say we should ask why it's not on board agendas. Many of you are already investing in wellness and rightfully ask the real questions. Is it actually improving your business performance overall? We have spent time listening to employers across sectors of the industries, and what we've heard is clear. Wellness efforts are often fragmented, unmeasured, and not delivering real returns. So today we are shifting the conversation, not from whether you invest in wellness, but how to make it work for your organization. Because when it's done right, wellness becomes a driver of better performance, better business outcomes, stronger work teams, and long-term sustainability of the business. Let me briefly outline what you will gain from today. Why has wellness become a leadership issue, one may ask? Because the pressure is on organizations, and organizations has fundamentally changed over the last, most probably couple of years. And COVID has certainly hastened that change. As employers, you are dealing with talent that's harder to attract and retain, and may I add, reward. Rising burnout and disengagement, increased customer expectations, and growing pressure around trust, accountability, and credibility. But here's what matters. These are not separate problems. They are all connected. Burnout affects productivity and performance. Similarly, does disengagement affect performance? Weak international systems affect customer journey or your customer experience. So what looks like operational challenges are actually signals that your organization is under strain. And that is what we mean by organizational wellness. It's not a program, it's an entire health ecosystem. Historically, the question around wellness was simple. Do we have wellness programs in place in our organization? And many organizations do have very good wellness programs. But here's the reality. Having programs does not mean your organization itself is healthy. You can still have all the right initiatives and still face burnout. You can still face disengagement, high employee turnover, and poor customer experience. So the question is changing. It is no longer do we have wellness initiatives in our organizations. It is this. As leaders, are we taking responsibility for the health of our organizations? That's why I mentioned earlier on that wellness should be a board agenda and it should face prominently on corporate boards. Because organizational health is not a human capital or human resources outcome, it is a leadership responsibility. And if we want to sustain performance, we have to move beyond wellness programs and start managing the entire ecosystem. So why does this matter at leadership level? Because by the time the problems show up in your financial results, it's already too late. The real warning signs appear much earlier. You see it in disengagement, declining trust, most probably from customers, employees, customer satisfaction dipping, and real customer satisfaction frustration that allows customers to vote with their feet. Those are not soft signals, they are hard business indicators. And they are real risk to our organization. And if they are ignored, they show up later as talent loss, high levels of resignation and labor turnover, operational issues, and fundamentally reputational damage to the organization. So organizational wellness is not about employee care only. It is an early warning system for your organization. No longer just an HR conversation. It is a governance responsibility. And the question for leadership becomes, are we seeing these signals early enough and do we know what to do about them? Thank you, Steve. I hope that my contribution is well received and some learnings. Appreciate that, Steve.
Thanks, Ellen. Thanks for setting the scene for us. Moving on to the next section then, I'd like to introduce Dr. Nomonde Mabuya to take us deeper. Whoops, I've just lost control there. That's interesting. Okay. To take us deep into how, sorry, Nomonde, I think you are jumping ahead of me. If I can just take back control for a second and then I'll hand over to you. Cool. To take us deeper into how to understand and manage this at a system level, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Nomonde Mabuya, the Vice Chairperson of the WWASA Board. She is a respected South African medical specialist and digital health innovator. With over 30 years of experience, she has led advancements in electronic health records and remote patient monitoring to improve healthcare access. Her background spans occupational medicine, strategic marketing, and corporate wellness consulting for top companies. A passionate advocate for women's empowerment, she founded the Women's Sports and Entrepreneurs Trusts, supporting athletes and micro-entrepreneurs. She has lectured at the University of Pretoria and co-authored national health guidelines. Her work bridges healthcare, leadership, and social impact with lasting influence. Over to Dr. Mabuya.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Sorry for jumping ahead and taking control before time.
All good.
But thank you so much as we deep dive into this particular topic. So maybe let me start with defining where we come from. Traditionally, wellness were mostly defined in terms of campaigns, programs, largely led by the HR team. And today we are talking a completely different landscape where we've gone beyond the traditional counseling wellness days, but to driving wellness to be at the heart of any organization in terms of integrating it with the wellness environment and the ecosystem within the organization. It is a big, broad topic because employees are the asset of any organization. And if we are to talk triple bottom line, we are talking people, profits, planet, and now there's also an element of peace that they must work in a peaceful environment. So that's really where the shift must happen from wellness programs to organizational systems. Once we have managed to move our programs from just standalone programs to creating ecosystems for organizations, we then need to highlight key stakeholders within organization and where they are located. Within the organization, it's employees. Then there's also customers that we serve. And then we've got the company itself that's got its own culture, systems, processes, structures, board organization, and the communities that we serve. It's important that we see ourselves as part of that broader ecosystem for us to start indicating what are the key leaders or key drivers for risk and sustainability within the areas where we work. Now, we know the four-wheel workplace wellness framework. That's basically our foundation as WWASA. And we use this framework to help us guide and navigate the framework within which we work. Now, top is mostly your company wellness, your customer wellness. The workplace remains at the center of it, employee wellness, and community wellness. Now, this is a chain. Any part of the chain remains strong for as long as we are together. If it breaks, then that creates a weaker link in terms of the whole ecosystem. The wellness is becoming a leading indicator for organizational risk and sustainability. And from personal perspective, I know that programs, when they are well-driven, well-led, well-resourced, can produce the performance that any organization wants. And it's always about the leadership that we put in place to drive these programs. And I've already highlighted key stakeholders within this ecosystem. So I'm going to go to the next slide. What is also important is that we need to bring back what matters in the wellness programs that we actually drive. We have evolved from offering simple packs of strategic or comprehensive organization systems to designing programs that drive employee value proposition. Very important. The programs must be wide and must impact on a holistic approach in an employee's life. And that would include physical health. It would also include, in terms of the physical health, maybe advising employers to create a happy place at the workplace. And that would include on-site gyms, running clubs, fitness reimbursement programs, or even policies, economic assessments, looking at the chairs that employees sit on the whole day, and nutritional counseling. So meaning that the canteen that we offer at the workplace becomes part of our wellness program. We can't be serving food from a vendor machine. We must provide fresh food, and we must provide for the base that accommodates employees with chronic diseases. So meaning that our food must be friendly towards every person within the organization, starting from the young to the old. Then there's issues around mental support. We need to create the workplace to be a place that is happy and supports emotional and mental well-being. Some organizations that I've given advice for also offer 24/7 advice when it comes to counseling services, because our families are part of this. And essentially, we can extend our wellness programs to our own children so that if we are not at work and issues happen, we don't have to wait for Monday to Sunday, but we become available on a 24/7 basis. That becomes important in terms of taking a holistic view in terms of what wellness programs do for communities. Then on the social and community impact, team building involves us being part of communities where we do this work. In our country, we're lucky, we have examples that are set, like the Mandela Day, but also just being part of community work helps employees to become part of team workers, become relevant to the societies that they serve, and they can interact with customers. Financial wellness, equally important. We do hold seminars and on finance to ensure that people know how to manage personal debt, management and seminars on retirement planning. We saw with the two-pot system what it revealed in terms of our personal finances. And I think there's a big lesson to be learned in terms of what we saw when the two-pot system was launched last year, that people are not necessarily fully in charge of their financial well-being. Now, the organization can never expect good performance if financial well-being of employees is not in order. Then there's issues around organizational integration, where the organization must offer flexi time, working policy, offer remote working, and offer support systems to employees to promote work-life balance. Now, key elements in terms of what we are covering in terms of the 4-wheel, most of them I've already touched on: physical wellness, mental health support, nutritional support, emotional well-being. And I just want to mention that sometimes I get surprised when I speak to employers and say, do we know who runs our kitchen and what exactly do they serve our employees? And are we relevant? Is our kitchen fit for purpose? Because nutrition is part of well-being, is part of health. And it's important that we take interest in terms of what is being served there, how it's being served, is it adding nutritional value, and is it supporting especially employees with chronic diseases or any other disease that could make them not to be well. So it's a small little observation that just completes the puzzle. With all these programs, we can support an organizational system that's promoting work-life balance and preventative healthcare programs, environmental wellness, and offer a holistic wellness environment. What are the benefits of doing all what we want organizations to do? We want to ensure that our programs give us a desired outcome. And what is that desired outcome? It's your increased productivity, having engaged employees that are more motivated, more engaged. They become more productive if you start showing interest in their well-being. We also start talking to talent retention. If we offer a supportive environment, we're boosting morale and loyalty, and we also can improve retention because we are offering an enabling environment at the workplace. Holistic health, it means we then need to look at our current strategy, identify gaps, and then try and offer a more comprehensive strategy that addresses employees' overall well-being, emotional well-being, occupational well-being, physical well-being, and mental well-being. Thank you. I will stop there for now. Thank you so much. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Dr. Mabuya. That was a very interesting presentation. Let us move on to our next speaker. Let's talk about this more in practice now. Our next speaker is Dr. Themba Hadebe, who is the Clinical Executive at Bonitas Medical Fund, where he leads the organization's clinical strategy, corporate health programs, and population-level wellness initiatives. With extensive experience in primary healthcare, chronic disease management, and employee well-being, he has become a recognized advocate for data-driven preventative health interventions in the workplace. Dr. Hadebe oversees large-scale wellness screenings, early risk detection programs, and clinical interventions that support healthier, more productive workforces across South Africa. His work focuses on shifting wellness from reactive care to... Hello? Can we mute Fanis? Dr. Hadebe oversees large-scale wellness screenings, early risk detection programs, and clinical interventions that support healthier, more productive workforces across South Africa. His work focuses on shifting wellness from reactive care to proactive strategic health management that reduces risk, improves outcomes, and strengthens organizational resilience. Dr. Hadebe is also a valued member of the WWASA research team. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Steve, and welcome again to all the colleagues that have joined us online for this very important conversation around workplace wellness. So, Steve, I'd also just like to, before I start, thank Dr. Nomonde, who has really given some insightful information around workplace wellness. Thank you, Doc, especially the benefits of wellness, and of course, a very important point around wellness, which is our diet, which probably forms 90% of really our everyday wellness and who we are in terms of our well-being. Steve, without further ado, I'm going to move on now with the presentation that I need to just present quickly to the colleagues. So can we just start with grounding the realities of this subject, Steve? Where exactly are the pressure points with regards to workplace wellness, and how do we move from a fragmented activities that we're currently seeing being the model of approach in workplace wellness, and to more of a consolidated and a more collaborative approach that needs to happen between the workplace environment, that being the employer and the employee. And this is exactly where I think we need to just focus today. So I will be taking you through a practical example around this subject right now. So our research indicates that in most organizations, the problem is not necessarily a lack of data as such, but it is a lack of connection between the data and the decisions that we're making in the workplace. So leaders of organizations get stuck primarily managing symptoms of the issues that they face at work, instead of actually sorting out or solving the root causes of those issues, therefore doing a proper and a comprehensive root cause analysis of the clinical and medical profiles, rather, of the workers in the workplace. Now, when we look at wellness data more broadly, including the insights from Workplace Wellbeing Index published last year by Gibbs, that being the Gordon Institute of Business Science at University of Pretoria, a very clear pattern emerges here, Steve. Organizations with low engagement experience up to 20% lower productivity. The other insight being high stress environments drive significantly high absenteeism, and disengaged employees are up to 3 times more likely to leave the workplace. So here's a key insight, that these issues aren't isolated. The workplace needs to be a place where employees feel safe, they feel cared for, and they feel seen. This is a system, Steve, that cannot be approached in a siloed approach. However, it is a comprehensive and a full service, or rather system, that needs to be approached by the employer comprehensively. Otherwise, we start seeing the cracks that Dr. Nomonde referred to earlier. This is exactly then why we at WWASA are launching the Workplace Organizational Wellness Index, because this brings together multiple data points across employee well-being, organizational practices, and performance into a single integrated view, which is what the golden standard is and what we're trying to achieve. So not just to measure, of course, the issues that we are seeing in the workplace, or the symptoms as it were, but also to diagnose them, and more importantly, to manage those and optimize the workplace environment. The important thing is to show leaders where the pressure actually exists, how different factors actually interact, and where intervention will have the greatest impact in the workplace environment. And why is this important? Because once you view the workplace environment as a full system, you can obviously then lead the system much more better and effectively. And that brings us to the missing piece, which I may call a structured way to measure organizational wellness as a system. So because what gets measured in isolation, colleagues, gets managed in isolation, it is very important, therefore, that we approach workplace wellness as a system. Therefore, not only do we manage workplace issues and workplace diseases, but we actually do what we call transforming the system into a better, or the workplace into a better environment. To address the challenge of fragmented insights, WASA has developed what we call the Organizational Wellness Climate Study. And the purpose of the study, colleagues, is to ensure that the leaders of organizations have a more integrated structure of the organization, and importantly, as we are speaking now, the wellness of the organization as such. So rather than focusing on individual indicators, which is what we are seeing more often than not currently in the workplace, the climate study examines how multiple dimensions of organizational health actually interact. Dr. Nomonde earlier mentioned the issue of emotional well-being. She mentioned the issues of diet, as I previously mentioned. She also managed finances. These are all parts of a full system, colleagues, which, if not managed as a full system and not approached comprehensively, they can really lead to an underperforming or suboptimized work environment. The structure of the model is based on the four-wheel organizational wellness framework, which was discussed earlier by Dr. Nomonde. These four wheels represent the key domains of organizational wellness, that being, as mentioned earlier, employee wellness. Number two, company wellness. Customer wellness, which is also very important. And of course, ultimately, the wellness of the community, or what we would call community wellness. These dimensions allow organizations to move beyond anecdotal impressions and instead develop evidence-based insights into how the organization is actually functioning, rather than shooting in the dark and hoping for positive incomes and bottom lines. If you can just ask the colleague to mute there. Thank you. So the climate study is typically conducted through structured surveys and assessments, which involve employees, of course, the leadership of the organization, and in some cases, customers and external stakeholders, allowing a structured, integrated view of the organization. The resulting analysis, of course, provides leaders with a diagnostic overview, and where strengths and pressure points exist within an organization and an ecosystem, these can then be addressed more accurately and more in a more focused approach. Importantly, the goal of the process is not simply just measurement, but as we said earlier, the goal of the process is rather to have actionable insights that will guide strategic decisions about where the organization needs to go, the systems of the organization, and ultimately the culture of the workplace. To illustrate the value of this approach, the next slide highlights some of the types of insights that organizations can uncover through this diagnostic process that we have just discussed. One of the most valuable outcomes of organizational wellness, colleagues, organizational wellness diagnostics, is that they reveal patterns that may not necessarily be immediately visible through traditional management metrics as such. When different dimensions of organizational wellness are analyzed together, leaders often begin to see relationships between issues that previously appeared and also that seemed unrelated, therefore clearly diagnosing or identifying the cause and effect of the suboptimal workplace wellness dynamics that often prevail in an organization. For an example, an organization may report relatively strong employee engagement scores, yet still struggle with operational efficiencies or slow decision-making processes. In such cases, the diagnostic may reveal that employees remain committed and motivated. However, organizational systems are creating friction that limits effectiveness. Now, these types of insights are valuable because they help leaders and organizational leadership to identify imbalances within the organization system and therefore act on them more strategically and in a focused manner. Instead of responding to isolated symptoms, leaders are then able to address the underlying systems dynamics that influence organizational performance and trust. And this is where diagnostics allows organizations not only to measure where they are today, but also to make more informed decisions about where to focus their efforts and in order to strengthen the long-term organizational resilience, which is a very, very important goal for most, if not all, organizations. Thank you very much, Steve, for this opportunity, and back to you.
Thanks, Doctor. That was excellent. Really interesting insights. In my world, in looking at people in terms of their jobs and their fitting into teams, there's such an important framework that we need to be understanding when we employ people. Right. Thank you for that. At this point in the discussion, we have explored the framework and a diagnostic approach. The final part of this session will focus on how many employers or how employers can participate in the broader ecosystem through the initiatives of the Workplace Wellness Association of South Africa. To guide us through that perspective, our next speaker is Chris Late, CEO of WWASA. Chris Late is a corporate wellness specialist and chief executive of WWASA with deep experience in workplace health and organizational development. Chris co-founded WWASA to address the gap in formal industry representation for workplace wellness in the region. Under his leadership, WWASA has become a platform for research, standards, education, and advocacy that connects employers, service providers, and stakeholders committed to healthy organizations and sustainable performance. His work aims to elevate wellness from operational programs to strategic governance practice. Chris, over to you.
Thank you so much, Steve. Right, so, what we've heard today highlights a very clear reality in my mind, and that is that most organizations already understand that workplace wellness matters. So the challenge is not specifically awareness. The challenge is execution. Because while many organizations have invested in initiatives, very few have the tools to manage wellness as a system. What our research at WWASA is indicating is that leaders need three things. Firstly, better diagnostics, the ability to see clearly where pressure exists across your organization, not just in pockets, but across the full system. Secondly, clearer benchmarks, so you can understand how you compare, where you are performing well, and where you need to improve. And importantly, so you are not solving the problem in isolation. And thirdly, coordinated intervention. Because most organizations already have partners, programs, and providers. They are not working together. What is needed is alignment, where every intervention contributes to a common outcome, performance. This is exactly why WWASA exists, to bring structure to wellness, to bring integration to effort, and to help organizations move from activity to measurable impact. So our invitation to you is simple. Don't search for the silver bullet. Rather, take the first step towards understanding your organization as a system. Engage with the Organizational Workplace Wellness Index, participate in the benchmarking, and become part of the community that is shaping the future of workplace wellness in Africa. Because the organization that will lead tomorrow are the ones that can see, understand, and manage systems today. At this point, it is important to clarify something. WWASA is not a service provider. We do not compete with the many excellent practitioners, consultants, and partners already working in this space. We are there to enable them. Our role is different, and it is built around four core functions. Firstly, we are a convener. We bring together employers, providers, researchers, and policymakers into a single platform so that knowledge, experience, and best practices can be shared. Secondly, we are a standards body. As workplace wellness evolves, organizations need clarity. What does good look like? What should be measured? And how do we define success? Are some of the questions. WASA provides that structure through framework, benchmarks, and shared definitions. And thirdly, we are a research platform. Through initiatives like the climate study and partnerships with academic institutions, we are building the evidence base, linking wellness to performance, resilience, and trust. And finally, we are an ecosystem connector. Most organizations already have multiple partners: healthcare, EAP, leadership, financial well-being. WASA connects these into a functioning ecosystem where interventions are aligned, measurable, and impactful. So in essence, WASA brings structure, not a fragmented landscape, and enables organizations to move from isolated activity to integrated performance, which naturally leads to the next question. How do you, as an employer, become part of this ecosystem? Because in the future, organizations will not be defined by the programs they run, but by the systems they manage. So what does participation in the WASA ecosystem mean for you as an employer? It means four very practical things. Firstly, clarity through diagnostics. Through the WASA climate study, you gain a structured view of your organization across employer, company, customer, and community wellness. Clear data-driven insight. Secondly, we give context through benchmarking. You do not operate in isolation. You see how your organization compares across your sector, across the broader ecosystem. So you know where you stand and where to focus. Thirdly, we give access to a curated ecosystem. Instead of navigating multiple providers independently, you gain access to trusted partners aligned to a common framework and measurable outcomes. And fourthly, strategic guidance, because insight without action has no value. We work with you to translate data into decisions, whether that is leadership structure, support, or system design. So taken together, WASA helps you move from fragmented initiatives to integrated performance, from measuring activity to managing outcomes, and ultimately from awareness to action. And that is what defines a high-performing organization today. Our research indicates that the shift we need to make is recognizing that workplace wellness cannot be solved by one organization alone. The challenges we have discussed today, people, performance, customers, and community, are interconnected. They require collaboration. That is why WASA built this ecosystem. At the center are employers, because this is where wellness is ultimately experienced and where leadership decisions shape outcomes. Around employers are service providers, specialists who deliver practical interventions across health, leadership, financial well-being, and organizational design, to name but a few. Researchers and academic partners to assist with the evidence. And finally, strategic partners, industry bodies, institutions, and associations who help shape the broader direction of workplace wellness. What WASA does is connect all these elements into a functioning system so that knowledge, practice, and innovation reinforce one another. And importantly, so that you as an employer are not navigating this journey alone, but are part of a structured ecosystem that is actively shaping the future of workplace wellness in Southern Africa. We believe that the organization that will lead the future are the one best connected to the right ecosystem. So why do organizations choose to participate? It's actually very simple. Firstly, you see stronger engagement. When you understand the pressures in your system, you address them at a structural level. You unlock commitment, energy, and productivity. Secondly, you see stronger customer outcomes because customers experience your organization through your people. And when your internal systems are healthy, your service becomes more consistent, more responsive, and more trusted. And thirdly, you build organizational resilience. In a world of constant change, the organization that succeed are the ones that understands themselves best. Those that can adapt, that can respond, and can sustain performance over time. So this is the shift. Workplace wellness is not just about caring for employees. It's about it's about strengthening the capability of your organization. And that is why leading organizations are starting to treat this as a strategic priority. The thinking is that ultimately, healthy organizations will outperform, unhealthy ones each and every time. What we are launching today is not simply a diagnostic tool. We are launching the foundation of a workplace wellness ecosystem index for Africa. The index will allow us to measure organizational wellness across sectors and over time. Participating employers contribute anonymized data through the climate study. The data forms part of the WWASA Workplace Wellness Index, providing insight into the health of workplace environments across the region. So let us make this practical. We are inviting you to take the first step, and it takes less than 5 minutes. If you take your cell phone, take a photo of the QR code, it will immediately lead you to the first climate study on employee wellness. This is the starting point of the Workplace Wellness Ecosystem Index. It gives you an immediate snapshot of what is happening in your organization while contributing to something much bigger. So our ask is straightforward. Scan the QR code, go to the form, Take the 5 minutes, complete the climate study, and start your journey towards a healthier, higher performing organization. And we will walk that journey with you, because transformation does not start with a strategy, it starts with action. Each year, WASA will publish the State of the Workplace Wellness in Southern Africa report. This report will bring together data from Workplace Wellness Ecosystem Index, research from our academic partners, and insights from participating employers. In this way, the report becomes a shared reference point for employers, policymakers, and researchers. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. Be part of the change shaping workplace wellness in Africa. The future of workplace wellness will be shaped by those who participate, not those who observe. And we invite you to be part of shaping that future. You have the link. Just start. As mentioned, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. And this is where it starts. Before we conclude, it is worth stepping back and reconsidering what this really means. Workplace wellness is no longer a support function. It's becoming a governance discipline. Leaders are realizing that organizational performance cannot be separated from the health of their people, systems, and relationships. Just as we govern finance and risk, we now need to govern organizational wellness, workplace wellness. The future of workplace wellness lies in integrated leadership, measurement, and ecosystems. And that is the opportunity before us. The opportunity is to lead it intentionally. We are not discussing cost of participation today, simply because the question is not whether we can afford workplace wellness. It's whether we can afford not to invest in workplace wellness. When workplace wellness are in balance, organizations build trust, resilience, and long-term performance. When they are not, strain inevitably follows. The organization that understands and manages this will lead. Healthy organization doesn't happen by chance. They are led. And we invite you to lead. Thank you very much for your time, your attention, and your leadership today. Please scan the QR code on the screen and complete the short survey. We truly appreciate the opportunity to share this journey with you. Before we open for questions, I would like to extend a simple invitation. As we build the Workplace Wellness Ecosystem Index, your input is not just valuable, it's essential. We are also inviting a select group of leaders to participate in our focus group discussions. We will explore practical challenges, insights, and opportunities in more depth. This is an opportunity for you to shape the direction of workplace wellness in South Africa, contribute to meaningful research, and ensure that what we build is grounded in real organizational experience. To make it worthwhile, every participant will be entered into a draw to win a weekend away at the beautiful Stanford Valley Guest Farm near Hermanus in the Western Cape. But more importantly, you will be contributing to something that has the potential to influence organizations across Africa. We would really value your voice in this process. And with that, I would like to open the floor for questions and reflections. Back to you, Steve.
Right. Thank you, Chris. I was just looking at the chat for a few seconds to see what questions are coming through. And thank you for the work that you guys at WWASA are doing. And it's important work which is critical to the economic sustainability of our country and our businesses. Chris, a question from a lady in the audience was, how do we influence wellness at our service providers and partners?
That's a great question, and I think where we're getting to is a place that this is not just isolation. As with the wellness of the human body, diseases are often spread. So one toxic environment can very quickly influence another toxic environment. And what we're hoping to do in WWASA over time is where organizations subscribe to the code of good conduct for workplace wellness, that they start placing pressure on their service provider to follow suit and gain a momentum, because it's really about the total ecosystem and very much about the concept that we are in business for the business of our clients. So if we are not treating our clients well, they might not be treating their clients well, and the money stream might dry up. So it is really a knock-on effect. And to a large extent at this stage, we are purely influencing, and maybe also in recognition of that, promoting amongst our participating employer organizations to identify individuals, and those individuals can be contractors or service providers to their organization, and maybe suggest them for the annual Human Capital Investor Award. That's an accolade that WWASA is promoting.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I've got a further question from Gail. She asks how it will be governed down the line.
Look, yeah, I think the important thing is that there's a 10-step process that WWASA subscribed to. And I'm not exactly sure where Gail is in the process with wellness in the organization, but it is critical that there's a wellness committee, and that this committee meets at least quarterly, and that there is a measurement of progress. But what WWASA is calling for is to understand the climate, to do the workplace wellness audit, because once you've got that baseline, that benchmark, all other interventions from the wonderful suppliers that is out there can be measured. And that is where I think the biggest objective we as WWASA have is to illustrate tangible return on investment to the employer. But if it's not measured, it's extremely difficult to do that. So in terms of being governed down the line, have a look on the website at the 10-step process, and contact us. Let's take hands and let's take you through the process. And very quickly, what we've seen with other participating employers is suddenly wellness starts becoming a executive and even board level discussion.
Okay, thanks, Chris. You thought you were going to get off easily, but you're not this afternoon. There's a few more questions coming up. There's a question from Lillian. Do you recommend incentivizing good wellness practices in partners and organizations?
Yeah, the knee jerk is yes. The more, the more difficult answer is exactly how do one incentivize it? Um, we have uh, we have looked at it very briefly, um, and some actuaries have actually got involved in looking at it. Um, there is also a notion that um, it's your own health is often more important than the monetary gain. So if you are, for example, assisted in having some kind of a primary care benefit or a preventative care initiative, um, that savings, which is quite significant, in rand terms, can be structured in some form of an incentive, and we are looking into programs on that level. Um, but also, I think a lot of very good work have been done through simple recognition, and we shouldn't dilute the value of recognition as a reward as well. But in short, no, I don't think there's any specific silver bullet in terms of incentivization, apart from, yes, that it is important, and yes, we are looking at that on a fairly high level. And many other organizations like Vitality, etc., have already done great work. So there's no reason to redesign the wheel. And maybe a last scenario is that the value of modern technology in this space really, for the first time, opens up the possibility of an individual getting specifically rewarded for taking care of his own health, because now it's much easier to monitor it.
Thanks, Chris. Next one. This is from an unknown user. How do we create a conducive work environment for WASA to thrive within the government workspace?
This is quite a loaded question.
Yeah.
I think the important thing is that WASA is a not-for-profit public benefit organization. So, whether it's government, whether it's private sector, whether it's big corporate, whether it's SMMEs, we really want to add value to all of those organizations. And we are in collaboration on a certain level with Department of Health. We are very much in collaboration on the SABS Technical Committee, looking at how one can enhance and promote standards around workplace wellness. And maybe that would be the logical point of departure, to see to what extent we can establish a certain protocol or benchmark or best practice scenario within government. And I do think that there's massive need in many phrases. There's discussions with SAICA, the chartered accountants. There's discussions with the legal board, and we'd very much love to have discussions with the public sector and see how we can really promote happy workers across the country.
Okay, thanks, Chris. The next one, and I apologize if I butcher this name, but the name looks like A. Ingwela. How does one get to partner with WASA and contribute ideas as far as workplace wellness is concerned?
So wonderful. Well, the first step to partnering is the climate study. please do the climate study. Then we've got a bit of a picture. It's just a dipstick. It's not necessarily the holy grail or the whole truth. It's your opinion. But that's a wonderful point of departure. Once we have that information, we can really align our focus around where is the biggest need, how can we promote it in the organization, what is the constraints, so it's really about take the first step, do the climate study. We'll be in contact with you, and then we can plot the journey from there.
Cool, thanks. Then I have a response from Tembekile to Gail about influencing wellness. She feels that this is something that should be included in the SLA as an issue of compliance and governance, and it should be a contractual enforcement with oversight pressure. Your views on that thought?
Well, absolutely, and I think that's what we are promoting is to understand and I think as much as I agree that there should be a strong service level agreement, what we are seeing is that service providers that are WASA members are committed to excellence in their service, and are also accountable because of their WASA association membership. So it all adds to that, and I think the important thing just is that what I challenge leadership on is it's wonderful to really govern and drive the initiative through a strong service level agreement. If you have that, that's great. But what I would really recommend is sometimes to stand back a bit, just see the wood from the trees, and understand how those initiatives is filtering into the greater ecosystem. And obviously, if a service provider is not performing, understand why. And that is where we hope through, the benchmark of the wellness audit, one have a very strong mechanism of dealing with the service provider by virtue of saying, look, there's nothing wrong with you, but the result that we were hoped for is not what we're getting based on the audit that we've done. So apart from the good governance, the service levels, I'd like to challenge leadership to seriously consider the workplace wellness audit as a minimum benchmark as well.
Cool, thanks, Chris. You're still not getting off lightly because there's another question from Tamsin. Tamsin wants to know if there are set standards in terms of the various wellness pillars, physical, emotional, financial, etc., and what metrics can be used to understand whether the program we have in place is effective.
Okay. Yeah, that's really our morning, noon, and night stuff that we are working on is to craft these standards. Tanzania, so it's not a very quick answer, and in essence, the real answer is no, there is no such standards. We have communicated with the International Standards Organization. There is a document that they brought out, Workplace Wellness Standard, but there's nothing in it. And they are actually waiting for technical committees from the varying countries that participate in the International Standards Organization to deliver the results. And we're very fortunate in South Africa that the SABS is taking up the reins and is aiming to drive value in that scenario. So Short answer, no. Longer answer is we are doing exceptional work at the moment with trying to understand that, breaking down exactly the dimensions of every component, what is the higher order and lower order components within that. There is a ebook that I think, yeah, we can send to all the participants here, highlighting that can be a good frame of reference. And under the leadership of Professor Rabia Klopper, there's a lot of work that's being done right now. Our aim for this year is to get all the measurement matrix sorted out, and hopefully then the next step will be to specifically work on those standards and how it benefits organizations, individuals, communities, and clients,
Okay,
customers. Thank you.
great, thanks. Question from Leon. When is the SABS committee starting its work?
Yeah, I believe that will probably be May, June. We are waiting for a specific kickoff meeting there, and I'm not exactly sure what they haven't committed on a specific date, but we I think it will still be in the first half of this year.
Okay, thanks. Then I think one of our last questions now, or there's still a few more coming in. How do we get men to participate in EAP services in the workplace? This is Irene's opinion. She feels that most users of EAP services are women, married, single, or divorced, and she reckons that male participation is low in well-being related programs.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting observation, and I think not I mean, traditionally in the wellness environment, men's health have been um, overlooked and underserviced from that component, simply because males tend to um, yeah, be more reluctant on illustrating issues and the likes. Um, I do think, however, that progressive leadership in South Africa is slowly but surely changing. Um, what we also do find is that in especially younger men in their 30s and 40s, um, tend to share a lot more in a, let's say, a sports environment, when they jogging or walking or cycling with other guys. So uh, in short, what we've found, and that's a topic that I'll note here for further research, so thank you very much for that. But is leadership. If the CEO happens to be a guy or even a lady, and can really influence the gents to be a bit more participative, and lead by example. And I think if you are the wellness officer in your organization, take that challenge, and get the guys to participate. Once
Yeah,
they see the one is doing it, typically they follow suit.
great. All right. And then question also from an unknown user, is the workplace wellness audit offered by WASA, or is it something that the organization must craft internally in alignment with the SOPs of their wellness provider?
What WASA does is WASA structures the outlines of a audit. So you can do your own audit. It doesn't really matter. What the organization strives to do is to say, here is a benchmark for a audit. It's kind of a minimum requirement, if you wish, and the idea is definitely to build upon it. So in essence, there is a structure that we recommend, and we recommend that based on international best practice research. But it's not exclusive. It's not saying that if you don't use that audit, but use another one, that isn't considered. What WASA is asking for is then still share that information so that we can promote and understand the national benchmark or African benchmark then.
Okay. Okay, a comment from Frederick. He believes that the future of workplace health lies in preventative ecosystems. I think we all agree with that one. Not programs. Ecosystems that bring together clinical insights, data, behavior, and access to care, all centered around an individual employee and not a one-size-fits-all. Wellness is not generic. It is deeply personal and should be delivered with care, dignity, and heart. If we want optimal performance in the workplace, we need to implement standards which I'm confident we'll be able to co-create as a collective. Thanks, Frederick. I think you'll agree with that, Chris.
Yeah, I'd like to sponsor Frederick's ambassador fee for the year. That's a wonderful contribution. Thank you.
Right, cool. Moving on. I know that time is going past us, but there are lots of questions, which is always great to see. How would WASA assist the practitioners in changing the mentality of executives that wellness is a program for compliance instead of employees' health increasing productivity to the benefit of the organization?
That's a great, yeah, and that's our aim. That's exactly what we need to do. And again, I think it's a, if you are a service provider and you are running against the walls and exactly in the way the question was described now, please contact WASA. Let's sit down, let's understand. And again, I think my short answer for that is let's get the measurements going. Once the executives understand and see that it's a total ecosystem scenario and your specific value add, whether it's a EAP service, whether it is a financial wellness service, whether it is cognitive health or whatever, it doesn't matter. Every single initiative is important, but it's important for us to illustrate to the executive, to the decision makers, the benefit and how it's constantly advancing and constantly improving. And yeah, if we get that right, the trend is irreversible. I mean, you're not going to go back to a toxic environment once you're healthy.
Yeah. All right. Then another comment from the Morong People Development. And this is written in capital, so I'm assuming it's a passionate position. Men are reluctant to reach out based on social pressure of being seen as a weakling, and that is very sad.
Yeah, I think again, and I've made a note here that's something I'd like our academics and so on to look into a bit more, because if we can start illustrating that it's not a sign of weakness, it's actually a sign of strength, and lead by example, I think we're going to see rapid change.
Yeah. Okay, a question from Zandile. Does WASA provide transition support for organizations that are yet to implement ESG reporting frameworks?
Well, in so far, our assistance can, give assistance to ESG. I mean, whilst it's not structured specifically to, deliver compliance on all the aspects of ESG, but it is a very important aspect, and definitely we can sit down and we can illustrate that there's great alignment, and if there is support to be given, obviously happy to do that. Yeah.
Okay. And I can see that Tempekile and Frederick will be having a meeting after this session. Tempekile replied to Frederick that she agrees that it's important what he said, but prevention without measurement and without addressing root causes, which is what WASA advocates, It simply becomes symptom management, and symptom management is not wellness. If we want optimal performance in the workplace, we must move towards clear, measurable standards which can be co-created collectively. Collaboration is the new normal. Thanks, Thembekile.
Excellent. Yeah.
All right. And I think that's possibly the end. We've just gone below 100 people online. So thank you so much for staying so long to the end. We've taken about 20 minutes of questions, which is great. We've reached the end of the webinar. We thank you very much for attending. Thanks to answering all the questions, Chris, and for the work that you're doing. We trust that the value of partnering with WWASA is clear. We are looking forward to engaging with you. Thank you and have a wonderful afternoon. Cheers.
Thank you.